The crimson skies of Earth burned with the arrival of the hegemony fleet, as Commander Zara of the mighty Vraxian Empire watched from her royal vessel. Her emerald skin shimmered under the command console lights, while her 4 eyes narrowed at the primitive blue planet below. The humans had refused to surrender their world, and now they would face the consequences. Zara belonged to the royal bloodline of Vraxia, a civilization that had conquered 17 star systems across the galaxy. Humans were just another species to be added to their collection. Yet intelligence reports showed these primitives were unexpectedly resilient for a species that had barely reached their moon. The invasion began at dawn with Vraxian dropships descending upon the human settlement designated as Boulder, Colorado. Zara insisted on leading the first wave herself. Despite protests from her generals, a princess warrior must lead from the front. She reminded them it was the Vraxian way. Susan Miller woke to the sound of explosions rattling her apartment windows, a government scientist working on experimental defense technology. She knew immediately what was happening. The aliens had finally come, just as the military had warned might happen. She grabbed her prototype device, a small silver disc that could potentially disrupt alien technology, and ran for the emergency shelter at the research facility. The Vraxian troops moved efficiently through the human city, disabling their primitive weapons. With electromagnetic pulses, Zara strode confidently among her soldiers, her royal battle armor glinting in the morning sun. Human resistance was scattered and disorganized, just as she expected. Still, something bothered her about the intelligence. Reports humans seemed too calm, too prepared. At the research facility, Susan found chaos scientists and military personnel rushing to secure valuable research. Several of her colleagues recognized the silver disc in her hand and gave her knowing looks. The experimental tech was untested on actual alien physiology, but theoretical models suggested it might work. She needed to get closer to one of their ships. Zara received an urgent communication from her fleet. Orbital scans had detected unusual energy readings from a facility at the edge of the city. It matched nothing in their intelligence about human technology. Curious and concerned, she ordered her personal guard to accompany her to investigate. Perhaps these humans had hidden resources. After all, Susan slipped through the back entrance of the facility as alien troops surrounded the main building. She heard their strange, clicking language echoing through the corridors. Her heart raced, but years of crisis training kept her moving steadily toward the roof where she might get close enough to an alien ship to test her device. The research facility appeared abandoned when Zara entered, her guards scanning for human life signs. The princess warrior moved confidently through the strange corridors filled with incomprehensible human science equipment. She ordered her guards to download all data while she explored the upper levels alone. A tactical error she would soon regret. The building shook suddenly as Vraxian ships targeted a human military response several miles away. The vibrations caused part of the ceiling to collapse. Zara looked up too late, as metal and concrete crashed down toward her royal form. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dodge the worst of it, but a steel beam struck her leg, pinning her to the floor. Her royal blood oozed onto the human flooring as she tried unsuccessfully to free herself. Her communication device had been damaged in the collapse. Susan heard the crash from one level below, and cautiously investigated. She froze at the doorway, seeing the alien trapped beneath the debris. It was wearing ornate armor. Unlike the other invaders she had glimpsed from hiding, this one seemed important. Perhaps a leader. Susan could simply wait for more aliens to arrive and capture her. But something in the creature's pained expression struck a chord. The alien had 4 eyes, all showing unmistakable fear. Against every instinct, Susan stepped into the room. The alien hissed at her in an incomprehensible language but seemed unable to reach its weapons. Susan raised her hands, showing she was unarmed, then pointed to the debris and made a lifting motion. The alien stared, uncomprehending or untrusting. Zara could not believe her situation. Trapped and at the mercy of a human female, the creature before her wore some kind of scientific garb. Not military. The human pointed to the beam, pinning her leg, and mimicked lifting. Was this primitive offering assistance? Impossible. Humans were violent savages according to Imperial intelligence, yet this one showed no aggression. Susan approached carefully and examined the debris. The alien watched her every move, tense and ready. Despite its injury, Susan found a metal rod to use as leverage and began working to free the alien. The creature remained perfectly still, watching with its quartet of eyes. As Susan strained against the weight of the beam for Zara, the moment stretched into surreal territory, a human helping a Vraxian princess. The same humans her people had come to conquer after several minutes of effort. The human managed to shift the beam enough for Zara to pull her injured leg free. The wound was significant, but not life-threatening for her superior Vraxian physiology. Susan stepped back as the alien freed itself. The creature stood at full height, nearly 7 feet tall, towering over her. Despite her fear, Susan held her ground. The alien studied her with all 4 eyes, then reached slowly to its side. Susan tensed. But instead of a weapon, the alien produced a small device. It touched several symbols, then held it toward Susanthe. Universal Translator took a moment to calibrate to the human language. Zara waited, watching the human female who had inexplicably saved her. Why would this creature help its enemy unless humans were nothing like what Imperial intelligence had reported? You assisted me. Why, Zara asked once the translator indicated it was functioning. The translator produced a stilted version of English that Susan could understand. She considered her answer carefully, deciding honesty was best because you needed help. And I could give it. That seemed to confuse the alien even more. Your kind came to conquer mine, yet you help an enemy. Zara could not reconcile this behavior with everything she had been taught about warfare and conquest, about the natural order of strong dominating weak. Where was the human savagery her people expected? Susan shrugged, a very human gesture. We are not all the same. Some humans would have left you there. Others might have harmed you. I made my own choice, just as you will make yours. Now that you are free, Zara had never encountered such thinking. In Vraxian culture, uniformity and obedience to Imperial doctrine was paramount. The idea that individuals could choose their own moral path separate from their species. Imperative was revolutionary and dangerous. The human stood there seemingly unafraid, despite having every reason to fear Zara could kill her instantly. Yet something held the princess warrior back. Distant explosions reminded both of the ongoing invasion. Susan spoke again, pointing to her silver disc. Your people are attacking mine, but this might not be necessary. I developed technology that could help us communicate better, understand each other. There could be another way. Zara studied the human female with growing curiosity. This primitive had saved her when she could have taken advantage. This went against everything Zara had been taught about conquest and inferior species. Perhaps Imperial intelligence had catastrophically misunderstood humans. The implications were enormous. Footsteps echoed in the corridor below. Zara's guards were returning. The princess made a swift decision. She activated her cloaking device and extended its field around Susan. The human gasped as the energy field enveloped her, rendering them both invisible to Vraxian sensors. 2 armed Vraxian soldiers entered the room, their weapons drawn. Searching for their commander, Zara remained perfectly still, signaling Susan to do the same. The guards examined the fallen debris, then continued their search elsewhere. When they were alone again, Zara deactivated the cloaking field. Why did you hide me from your soldiers? Susan asked, confused. I am still processing your actions. Zara admitted, I need to understand why a conquered species would show mercy before I allow my guards to take you. Susan realized she had a rare opportunity. The alien commander seemed willing to listen. We are not a conquered species yet, she said boldly. But we don't need to be enemies. Our world is big enough to share. We could exchange knowledge, culture. Instead of fighting, Zara had never considered such a possibility in all her years of military conquest. But something about this human's simple logic resonated with her. She examined the silver disc in Susan's hand. What is this device? She asked. It's designed to analyze and integrate communication patterns. Susan explained it could help our species understand each other beyond just words. It can translate cultural contexts, emotional resonances, things your translator might miss. Zara considered the implications. Such technology could revolutionize how the Vraxian Empire interacted with other species if it worked. Their entire conquest strategy might need re-evaluation. The Empire had always assumed other species were inherently hostile, requiring subjugation for peaceful coexistence. But what if that assumption was flawed? Before Zara could respond, her wrist communicator activated, bypassing the damage, her second in command. Voice came through urgently. Commander, the humans have activated some kind of planetary defense system. Our ships are being disabled. We need immediate tactical guidance. Zara looked at Susan with new suspicion. Was this mercy, a distraction? While humans prepared a counterattack, the humans seemed genuinely surprised by the news. That's not possible, Susan said. We don't have that kind of technology unless what Zara demanded, unless someone else is helping us. Susan whispered, some other alien force. We've detected unusual activity in the outer solar system for months. The military thought it might be your advance scouts, but what if it was something else? Zara accessed her fleet's sensor data through her partially repaired communicator. Something was indeed happening to her ships. They were being systematically disabled by energy pulses originating not from Earth but from the direction of Mars. A third party had entered the conflict. Zara's military training took over. She needed to return to her command ship immediately, but she hesitated, looking at the human who had saved her. Come with me, she said, surprising herself as much as Susan. I need to understand what's happening, and you may have insights my people lack. Susan weighed her options. Staying meant likely capture by other alien troops, while going with Zara offered a chance to prevent further bloodshed and possibly learn about alien technology. She nodded acceptance. Zara activated her emergency teleport beacon. The device was meant for one, but she recalibrated it to accommodate Susan's mass. The human looked nervous but determined as Zara pulled her close. The air around them shimmered and distorted as the teleportation field engaged. They materialized on the bridge of Zara's command vessel. The Vraxian crew stared in shock at the human. In their midst, weapons were immediately drawn, but Zara raised her hand. Stand down, she commanded. This human is under my protection. Her second in command, a bulky male named Krez, approached cautiously. Commander, you bring an enemy aboard during battle. This violates every protocol. Zara stood tall despite her injured leg. The situation has changed, she announced. There appears to be a third force involved in this conflict. The human may have information we need. On the main view screen, Susan could see the massive Vraxian fleet, dozens of warships larger than anything humans had ever built. Yet many were now drifting powerless. Something was systematically disabling them. Scans show energy signatures unlike anything in our database, Krez reported. They appear similar to Tekken technology but more advanced. Susan looked confused. What are Tekkens? She asked. Ancient species, Zara explained. Believed extinct for millennia. They once controlled this sector of the galaxy before retreating beyond known space. If they've returned, Zara was interrupted by a new alert: proximity. Sensors blared as a massive ship emerged from what appeared to be a fold in space. It dwarfed even the largest Vraxian vessels, its surface rippling with iridescent energy. Incoming transmission, Krez announced. The view screen shifted, showing a humanoid figure with crystalline skin and multiple limbs, arranged in geometric precision. We are the collective, the being stated. We have observed your conflict. Species designation, Vraxians. Your conquest of developing civilizations ends. Now Zara stepped forward. I am Commander Zara, royal heir of the Vraxian Empire. By what authority do you interfere with our military operations? We have protected this sector since before your species achieved spaceflight. The crystalline being replied. Humans are under our observation. They have potential you cannot comprehend. Your empire expands through violence, ours through harmony. We will not permit Earth's assimilations. Yuzen watched in awe, realizing Earth had unknowingly been under alien protection all along. The collective being noticed her presence, addressing her. Directly human designation. You stand with the conqueror, yet your kind remains undefeated. Explain. Before Susan could answer, Zara spoke. The human saved my life when she could have taken advantage. She showed mercy to an enemy. This behavior contradicts our understanding of conquerable species. I brought her here to understand. The collective being seemed to consider this information. Conquest based on misunderstanding is still conquest. It stated, however, your recognition of error shows potential. For growth, perhaps there is another path. Susan stepped forward nervously. I don't represent all humans, but I believe most of us would prefer peaceful contact to war. We have much to learn from other civilizations. but we want to maintain our independence, our identity. The collective being shifted its crystalline form, subtly a gesture Susan somehow understood as consideration. It turned to Zara. Will the Vraxian Empire withdraw and enter diplomatic negotiations instead of conquest? All eyes on the bridge turned to Zara. The Princess Commander faced an unprecedented situation. The Empire had never retreated, never negotiated as equals with lesser species. Yet their fleet was effectively neutralized by collective technology, and the humans unexpected. Mercy had already challenged her understanding of conquest. The Empire has always expanded through strength, Zara said slowly. But perhaps there are different kinds of strength. The human showed strength through compassion. Something our intelligence failed to recognize a significant tactical error. She took a deep breath. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to evolve. Our understanding? Krez looked shocked. Commander, you can't possibly. I am royal heir to the Empire. Zara cut him off. I speak with the Emperor's authority. She turned to the collective being. The Vraxian Empire will withdraw our forces and open diplomatic channels on the condition that we are included in any future arrangements regarding this sector. The collective being seemed pleased by this development. Evolution through understanding rather than conflict is the path of advanced civilization. It stated, we accept these terms. A neutral delegation will arrive to facilitate discussions between all three species. Susan could hardly believe what she was witnessing. The invasion of Earth halted through conversation rather than warfare. She looked at Zara with new respect. The alien commander had shown remarkable flexibility for someone from a conquest-driven culture. As the collective ship maintained position, the Vraxian fleet began power restoration procedures. Susan watched, fascinated by the alien technology on display around her. Zara noticed her interest and approached. What are you thinking? Human, Susan smiled, still processing everything that just happened. You know, my name is Susan, not human. And I'm thinking about how quickly everything changed. An hour ago I was running for my life. Now I'm on an alien ship, witnessing interspecies diplomacy. Zara nodded, her four eyes blinking in sequence. I am still processing as well. In a single day I have experienced defeat, mercy, and diplomatic negotiation, none of which were in my extensive military training. Krez interrupted their conversation. Commander, the Emperor requests immediate communication. He does not sound pleased. Zara straightened her posture. He rarely is, she said dryly. She turned to Susan. Would you join me? This conversation will concern your species as well. Susan followed Zara to a private communication chamber, the walls lined with pulsing bioorganic technology. A large view screen dominated one wall. Zara gestured for Susan to stand slightly behind her as she activated the communication array. The screen flickered to life, revealing an imposing Vraxian male with elaborate facial ridges and ceremonial armor. Emperor Zarkon. Zara began with a formal bow. Save the formalities, daughter. The Emperor growled. Our sensors show the fleet disabled and our ground forces in retreat. Explain this humiliation. Zara stood tall. Father, we encountered unexpected resistance, not from humans but from the collective, an ancient species thought extinct. They have technology far beyond ours and claim protective status over Earth. The Emperor's expression darkened. The legendary collective, mere myths and children's tales. The evidence suggests otherwise, Zara replied, sending battle footage to the Emperor's screen. As you can see, our ships were disabled without opportunity to defend themselves. The Emperor watched the footage, his anger shifting to calculation. The collective, this changes everything. We are not prepared for conflict with such an advanced civilization. He noticed Susan standing behind Zara, and his eyes narrowed. Who is this human? This is Susan Miller. Zara explained, she saved my life when I was injured during the initial assault. Despite knowing I was an enemy commander, her actions contradicted our intelligence about human behavior, which led me to question our approach. Susan stepped forward cautiously. Your Highness, humans are diverse in our responses and beliefs. Some would have acted differently. But many like me believe that compassion should extend to all sentient beings, even potential enemies. The Emperor studied her with clear surprise. You speak well for a primitive species, he said. But one human's mercy does not change our imperial doctrine. With respect, Father, Zara countered. Our doctrine is based on accurate intelligence. This human's actions and the collective's Intervention suggests our intelligence regarding Earth was flawed significantly. Flawed, I believe this warrants a full reassessment. The Emperor fell silent. Considering her words, the collective had requested our presence at diplomatic negotiations. Sarah continued, "They wish to establish a three-way dialogue. I gave provisional agreement pending your approval." A muscle twitched in the Emperor's face. "Diplomacy with lessers," he said with distaste, but his eyes showed calculation rather than dismissal. "The collective's return changes galactic dynamics significantly. We cannot afford to ignore their wishes. Very well, daughter. You will represent the Empire in these negotiations. Learn what you can about collective technology and intentions." The screen went dark, leaving Zara and Susan alone in the communication chamber. Zara released a breath. "I've never contradicted him before," she admitted. Susan smiled slightly. "You handled it well for your first diplomatic rebellion." Zara's mouth twitched in what Susan realized was a Vraxian smile. "I am beginning to understand why the collective sees potential in your species. You are adaptable." On the bridge, Krez coordinated the fleet's recovery efforts. The collective ship had withdrawn to orbit around Mars but continued monitoring the Vraxian vessels. A smaller craft had departed from it, heading toward Earth, presumably to contact human governments. "We should return to Earth." Zara decided your leaders will need preparation before formal negotiations. Susan nodded, feeling suddenly overwhelmed by her role in these historic events. "How do I explain any of this to my superiors?" She wondered aloud. "Most humans still don't even believe aliens exist, and now they'll need to prepare for a diplomatic summit with two advanced species. Perhaps a demonstration would help." Zara suggested, activating her communicator. "Krez, prepare a diplomatic shuttle and a small honor guard. We will accompany the human Susan to her government representatives within the hour." A sleek Vraxian shuttle descended toward the now quiet city of Boulder, Colorado. Emergency services were still responding to damage from the brief invasion, but the fighting had ceased. The shuttle landed precisely on the lawn of the Boulder research facility where Susan worked. Armed human soldiers immediately surrounded the craft, weapons drawn. Susan stepped out, first hands raised. "It's okay," she called out. "They're here peacefully. I need to speak with Director Conway immediately." The soldiers looked uncertain but kept their weapons trained on the shuttle as Zara emerged, flanked by two unarmed Vraxian guards. The alien princess stood proudly surveying the nervous humans. "Susan Miller," Director Conway's voice came through a megaphone. As a middle-aged woman approached cautiously, "Would you mind explaining why you're arriving on an alien craft after these same aliens attacked us?"